Good afternoon. Welcome to your brisk May 19th Rotary Club of Ames meeting. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Does anyone have anyone that they know of that could use some extra Rotary thoughts and prayers? Okay, well, we'll just take a moment and send out our good vibes. Thank you. You may be seated. We have quite a few guests today. We'll start, I don't know how I'll say both, but I can help you too. Okay, yeah, Lisa Hedens has a guest.
Good morning, everybody. I have brought my son, Paul, today. Generally he's working at ISU Dining, but he's off this week, so I thought bringing him to Rotary would be a great thing for him.
Yay, welcome, Paul. Thanks for joining us. Let's see, we also have Al Weber. Oh, right as you take a bite. Sorry, Al. Everybody say wave and say hi to Al. Heather Johnson from the Octagon. Welcome, Heather. And let's see, Andrew brought a couple of guests. For our friends online, you gotta have the mic.
Two YSSers in their first year, Angeline Mather, Development Director, and Aaron Bloss, Chief Growth Officer.
Welcome. Thank you both for being here. Let's see, and then we have some grant recipients. I'm not sure I can read all of this, but.
Yeah, she can't read my handwriting. I might not be able to read mine
Thank
myself.
you, Karen.
And now I have to take my glasses off. Sorry, folks. All right, Serena Flathers and Kate Espinosa from the Boys and Girls Club.
Welcome. Thanks for being here.
Megan Klein-Hewitt from the Ames Public Library Friends Foundation.
Welcome.
Diane Burt and Laura Beskow from Outdoor Alliance of Story County.
Welcome.
And where's Kathy? There she is.
I brought my daughter, Rowan Pinkerton, mostly to see Alan's presentation today because she is a recent graduate just Saturday from Iowa State University.
Welcome and congratulations. Oh my gosh, that's wonderful. Okay, thank you, Lee. Welcome to you from Ames Rotary. Thanks, Louie. Welcome, everyone. Love to have a full house today, so glad you're here. Just a quick announcement. We are looking, our board and our whole Rotary Club is looking for a sergeant at arms or volunteers. We're gonna utilize a group of people, and that will be the setup and the tear down of each meetings. Obviously, Karen's been doing it for us by herself for a lot of years, and now we're gonna kind of go to a committee format. So putting up banners, greeting team arrangements, we've obviously the stuff on the back table, drinks, fruit. maybe-ish. Well, more to come on the details. But if you are willing to volunteer to be a part of this kind of committee that we're starting, we would sure love that. Anyone that has a little bit of extra time on Mondays. A lot of people rush right here and have to go right back after an hour. So if you have a little extra time or flexibility in your day, please let us know. Any of us. Anyone you know, say you're willing and we'll put you on a list. So that is our big volunteer announcement. And then from here, I can invite Sheila Schofer to come up and we're gonna give away our community grants. Have some exciting.
This is clear. All right. I'm excited to be the representative from the Grants Committee to announce today's applicants or winners. But I was joined on the committee by Deb Schildroff, Park Woodle, John Christie, and Jean Cressy. And it wasn't an easy task. There were 37 applicants totaling over $92,000 in requests. So a lot of really worthy projects. But we narrowed it down to 8 and we're gonna announce those today. The Ames Public Library Friends Foundation for their large print collection, expanding for deposit collections. Oops. All right, up next is Mid-Iowa Community News for Ames Voice. The Boys and Girls Club Let's Cook Station. Food at First for a new convection oven. The Octagon Center for the Arts for their art outreach for youth. Outdoor Alliance of Story County for their pollinator and bird educational signs. Okay, the Salvation Army for their culturally sensitive food program. And the United Way of Story County for their office space expansion. All right, thank you so much.
Wonderful. Yeah, big round of applause. Exciting. I always love when we do the grants, and then I love to hear about them in a year. So good stuff. Moving on to, nope, sorry. I'm going to invite up Andrew. You all know Andrew from YSS, and I'm sure he has a very worthy bio, but in essence of time, we're just going to introduce Andrew and thank him for being here.
Great. Well, thanks so much, everyone. Really appreciate the opportunity to address my home, Ames Rotary Club. I am grateful for all that so many of you do to support our work. My grandfather was a Rotarian. My mom was a Rotarian. She loved when I joined. And to see the checks go out, 8 worthy organizations doing really great work is awesome. So thank you for that. I was preparing some slides, and I presented maybe 18 months ago, and I had been using some of my slides regularly that I had created 18 months ago. So you've kind of got an updated version today, and we're going with a 1 to 1 million theme, and I've got some photos for you. Doesn't seem like George is here, is he? But one man with a vision, guys. George Blitzos, one of Iowa's greatest friends to children, came to this community over 50 years ago. YSS was incorporated in 1976, so we're just a month away from entering into our 49th year and be planning our 50th anniversary celebration. So George hasn't changed a bit, has he? The picture there on the left, Nancy Reagan came to town. She had a campaign called, what was it? Just Say No. And as she traveled the country, she came to YSS in Ames, Iowa, and talked about the good work that YSS was doing. And this is George just a month ago, 3 weeks ago, at Ember Recovery Campus, being recognized as our founder and the guy that set the foundation for the organization that we have today. So sad that he's not here. And I don't think it's a secret because I saw it posted on Facebook. George will be honored in August as the Ames History Maker. So he received that award from the Ames Historic Society. Here's one image. So I kind of got the one theme going on and maybe some foreshadowing. Can anybody read that sign in the background? I tried to blow it up. Past and future. So you might not recognize the venue, but that's on the back porch of the Knoll. Not quite 30 years ago. George and I both look super excited to be there. But we had a campaign. Preserving the past, preparing for the future. And so many of you know that while my title is President and CEO, my most important title is alumnus. This is the organization that saved my life when I was a kid. As a matter of fact, I can say this for a 4.5-month period of time, but it was 30 years ago today that I was sitting in treatment. 17 years old, not knowing up from down, not really wanting to be sober, defiant, telling the team at YSS what they could do with their treatment plan, where they could stick it. I couldn't stand authority, and I was really struggling and fighting. And for the first time in my life, I had a lot of people, some of you knew me when I was a kid, I had a lot of people who had been trying to get me on the right track and trying to support me, and I would push you away until you'd say, fine, kid, go ruin your life, like we're done trying to help you. And YSS, 30 years ago, for the first time in my life, stood firm. And it was direct care staff probably making $5 an hour, $7 an hour, whatever minimum wage was at the time. Wasn't George at the time, the CEO. It wasn't the VP of programs. It wasn't the chief growth officer. It was direct care staff who believed in me more than I believed in myself, who stood firm, who held me accountable, who helped to create the life that I've got today. So this was a pretty cool thing. I've got this picture in my office. Despite not looking enthusiastic, I can't even tell you how awesome it is every day to get to go to work for the organization that saved my life. All right, staying with the theme of one day ago. So this was just yesterday. My twins, Darcy and Drew, and my wife, Holly. So just thinking about how they graduated from high school, Ballard High School, and none of that would have been possible. I would have missed all this had it not been for YSS. Had they not been there, at a critical moment for my family to encourage me and support me and, give me the platform for, turning, as George would say, scars into stars. And so Really proud of both of them. Got one headed to Iowa State, bless her soul. The other one, Drew's pretty entrepreneurial. He's got a couple of business. He's kind of like the gig economy, some side businesses going, and he'll be happy to mow your lawn if anybody's looking for someone too. So add you to his list. And I have a board meeting tonight, a foundation board meeting. Raise your hand if you're a board member, a former board member. Look at this. So we've got such great representation here, so many people who did so much to help create the foundation for this organization. And I always think my best board meetings are meetings where the board members are talking more than me. And so as I prepare to talk to you for 30 minutes, I want you guys to talk amongst yourselves. All of you have some sort of a YSS memory or a connection. So at your table, just share for 3 minutes. What your favorite YSS memory is, or maybe if you've got a hope for the future. So, audience participation at your groups, at your tables. Go for it. All right. Some great reminiscing. I want to hear. What were some stories? What's your favorite memory? Warren, what were you talking about?
Well, I say I was around when George came to Ames, as some of you know. Paul Goodland was both a minister and mayor, and I actually Paul. But, George came here as a conscientious objector. It wasn't probably what he wanted to do, but he did. In the end, that obligation turned into what is it now? ++ years in office.
Nearly 50 years you got it. And Bev had,
Down across from where DOT's headquarters are, that was the first hole in the wall.
I heard hole in the wall a few different tables. And Bev was on our board for many years, so really appreciate both of you. It was a real bus stop, you got it. Who remembers the bus stop? Look at that, wow. Who else has a memory?
I had one of the same memories when George had his group of kids that met down in the basement of the 66 motel across from the DOT, and we had friends who had a daughter that was having real problems, and I'd heard about George's group, and so my husband and I encouraged them to go with us to one of these meetings, and not realizing then that this was going to bloom into such a great, big, wonderful organization.
Pretty amazing, one connection at a time. Who else? Selden, what was your story?
I was oblivious to all of it until it was the grand rounds, and I think George, well, that's Bledsoe's gave a presentation, and I made the connection to Dr. Clark, who was in the clinic at that time. So that was just kind of an eye-opener. I didn't know that was going on. And it was a good thing, you know.
Who else? One more.
I actually recorded the ribbon cutting at YSS, the current location, how many years ago?
It was 30 years. I think it might have been almost 30 years ago today. I'm trying to find the date. It was 30 years ago.
And this young kid stood up and told a story that I couldn't believe. And then a little while later, they named him CEO, and I thought, what are they doing? and I didn't really think that, but just a pretty, a pretty amazing story.
That video lives in YSS lore with your voiceover too, and it was a pretty proud moment. And if it goes awry, you can blame Rosa, because Rosa was the board chair at the time that they hired me. It was Rosa and Jim Black, and I love telling this story. I had been volunteering for YSS for 20 years. I had a great job at Principal Financial Group. YSS had kind of helped me become the person that I was, and was president of their foundation, so was giving away $15 million a year. Used to get taken to lunch a lot. Now I gotta take a lot of people to lunch. Now I gotta raise $25 million a year. So they had done, they did a national search, and they got it down to 3 candidates. I'd originally put myself on the committee because I wanted to find somebody good. I wasn't interested in applying, but a few people said, hey, you should throw your hat in the ring. So I did, and every successive round of interviews, I got more excited about the possibility of coming to work for YSS. And they got it down to 3 finalist candidates, and then the night before, somebody dropped out, so it was down to 2. And had to do a community presentation, so I had to tell my boss at Principal that I'd applied for this job because it was kind of public. And it was hosted at the Iowa State University Foundation, and Jim Black and Rosa were respective foundation and corporate board chairs. And I prepared because I really cared, gave a speech to a group, answered questions, and then the next candidate was to come in. And they kind of walked me back to a room, and I was just waiting, and Rosa and Jim came. And I'm like, well, don't you guys need to get back out for the other interview? And they said, oh, about that. The other candidate also dropped out. The job is yours. And I'm, if you know me, nothing but competitive. I like to win. And so in my mind, had maybe structured this in a way like I was going to win this job. And I think the essence of getting it by default, there's something for me pretty spiritual about that I didn't win this job. It was the carrying power of community and the support of a guy like George Blitzos, and the belief of people like Jim Black and Rosa that helped me land in the seat. So again, like I said, I got to pinch myself every day. 350 YSSers, Angeline and Aaron, just 2 of them, working every day to deliver on our mission to create hope and opportunity. Thanks for that, down memory lane. Let's see. All right, well, there's my admission photo. That was 30 years ago. Upper left-hand corner, punk kid, didn't want to be there. And here is the banner, the same banner, preserving the past, preparing for the future. So this was 30 years ago. If anybody can find out the day that we had kind of the groundbreaking for 420 Kellogg, please tell me, because I think it might have been about this time. And I know that because I was in treatment. So I was a seat filler that day. I was sitting there watching Dick Jacobson and probably the mayor at the time and Martin Jiske and, other people talk about, the hope that they had for YSS. And that building was a catalyst for something much greater. YSS, who remembers where YSS was headquartered before 420 Kellogg, the old city hall? Karen? Where was it? Kind of. We had a couple of houses. The one on Burnett. Does anybody remember where George's office would have been? Randy? I was just thinking when you were looking downtown. Yes? That's right. Above Lazy M3. No? All right, Gene, tell us. I thought it Lazy M shoe store. I've been telling this story for a while. Oh, okay. Well, Yes, right before we moved into 420 Kellogg. Gene did the fundraising for 420 Kellogg and never got a chance to have an office there. Is that the way the story goes? Hey, in retirement, Gene, you're always welcome to come back. So we had this rickety old office above Lazy M Shoe Store on Main Street. And I think that getting this building really gave us a substantive chance to say, hey, we can, not just change a small community, but help change the state. Shortly after this came the Iowa Aftercare Services Network, where we provide support for kids who age out of foster care statewide. It's a $5.5 million contract. What did you find?
July 14, 1997.
All right, July 14th, that was the ribbon cutting. And I know that date. If anybody can find out, when did we do the groundbreaking? I think it was about this time. So good sleuthing. So here is the newspaper article, and this is a letter to the editor in August of '95. And this is a guy named Chad Exline. Of course, everybody recognizes the guy on the right. His name is synonymous with all things Iowa philanthropy, Richard O. Jacobson. But do you see in the upper right-hand corner of the photo, I kind of blew it up a little bit, some punk kid drinking a drink with ponytail, like scowling back at them like, why didn't they ask me to speak, because Chad spoke that day. So I actually talked to Chad today, and I said, hey, I'm gonna talk about your story. And he says, man, how far we've both come. So pretty cool. One state, one mission. So the mission is easy, to create hope and opportunity by putting kids first, but we do that in a few different ways: education, counseling, and stability. You can kind of see the breadth of YSS, mostly central and north Iowa, but several statewide contracts that are serving upwards of 10,000 kids and families every year. So we're grateful that we've got this community-based nature to the work that we do. We've got directors in most of those locations who manage relationships. We've got boards. It was kind of George's secret sauce. I think I've got like 132 board members, which seems like a lot, but when you've got local buy-in in the communities that you operate, I think that's pretty important too, as opposed to being headquartered in Ames. We've got VPs of different businesses in Des Moines, and and a police officer on our board, and local connection in all of those spaces. I wanted to talk about how we went from one safe place to many. So while this wasn't the original building was 712 Burnett. This upper left-hand corner became Rosedale Shelter. Does anybody know why it's called Rosedale? Randy? Yeah, Rose and Dale McKay. And so, interesting story. It was Dale was part of, I think, the Y board that had hired George. They'd taken out, they'd leased a place, and then they took out a loan to live in a space. And there was a board meeting where Dale McKay announced to the whole board in front of everybody that they had given him, George, we're going to give you $2,000. And George was like, oh, I mean, this is the 70s probably, like $2,000. That's a pretty good chunk of change. And George was like, oh, thank you so much, $2,000. He's like, no, not $2,000, 2,000 shares of Pioneer stock. So the McKay family was one of the original 8 founders. And so that really made a difference. They paid off the loan, they burnt the mortgage, and they had their own space. And so Rosedale Shelter lives on as we have evolved the program to Ember Recovery Campus, which I'll talk about more later. And it's now called the McKay Cabin. So from one place, safe place for runaway and homeless youth, to now more than 85 units of supportive housing. So if you just think about the evolution of emergency care, you can't spend a lot of time focused on crisis situations without thinking, okay, like how do we provide long-term stability? And the philosophy today is a housing first model. Like we used to think, let's get people settled and then give them, a place to live. And now we know it's Maslow's hierarchy. You got to provide stability, and then you can wrap them around with services. So we're really proud. Ames has almost 25 of these units. We're serving survivors of human sex trafficking, pregnant and parenting moms, Our focus is always youth and homeless youth. So think 16, for this program, 16 and a half. And generally, if they're 16 or 17, we'll get them connected with state services, but up to age 24. And so in some instances, we own the space. In other instances, we lease the space. In other instances, it's a partnership. So here's two examples. Very proud of upper right-hand corner. This is a Des Moines program, 6th Avenue Flats. If you ever go to Des Moines, get off of 6th Avenue on 235. On the right is Mercy Hospital. On the left is a McDonald's. Just past that is this beautiful building. We get a lot of, not in my backyard, some of you know that. People like, oh, YSS, great organization, great mission, but not here. In this instance, this was right off of 6th Avenue, not the greatest part of town, probably actually one of the highest crime-ridden neighborhoods in the state. And we had a neighborhood meeting, and I can remember the president of the local neighborhood association, she's like, we got done presenting what it was that we wanted to do, and she came up to me and she says, Andrew, she says, we know about YSS, and we know your story and the work that you guys do, and we think it's great, but are you sure you want to put it here? So that's how tough this neighborhood was, and now we've got this really beautiful space that provides dignity to the people who live there. 8 duplexes, also on a dead-end cul-de-sac for pregnant and parenting women called the Lighthouse, and just feel really blessed and grateful to have supportive housing across our portfolio, to have gone from an emergency shelter to now have, what's pushing 100 units of supportive housing. I really think about, and we at YSS think about, a continuum of care. So when George started in emergency services, you can't do that long before you're like, hey, these kids need treatment, like mental health needs and substance use, and we're going to talk about that, housing and supportive services. So how can we not just give them a handout, but also a hand up in a lot of respects? And employment is a big piece of that. And so rooftop gardens, who's heard of rooftop gardens? If you're at the board meeting tonight, we got a foundation board meeting, I think you might get the package of lettuce and not have to pay $2,500 for it like Jim Baker did a few months ago. Thanks, Jim, for that. The first lettuce ever sold in Ames from Rooftop Gardens sold for $2,500 for a 4-ounce package. So Jim and some of his friends participated in helping to really support a program. This is social entrepreneurism and kind of wrapped up in workforce development. So we have 6 retrofitted shipping containers that grow leafy greens in vertical hydroponic gardens, self-contained, 365 days a year. It's really special. And you can see inside of one of them, you got to squint maybe a little bit, that middle picture. Bottom right-hand corner, we're at the Farmers Market, Des Moines Farmers Market and Ames Farmers Market. We had a hard time getting in there, so we've got a couple dates reserved next week included, where we're selling leafy greens grown by youth who've aged out of foster care or are homeless. We're paying them $15 an hour in 6-month cohorts where they spend half of their time getting paid in the classroom, learning job skills, and half of the time growing, planting, growing, harvesting, packaging, selling leafy greens. So we've got romaine lettuce. And anybody recognize the guy in the middle? Reynolds Kramer probably hires more kids than anybody else in the state of Iowa, right? And he stopped by to say hi, to coach up our kids and encourage them and see if they might sell some of this in Fairway. We had it in Hy-Vee for a while. It didn't really work out, the model is the way that we wanted, but Reynolds was talking about how to get a job at Fairway and the sorts of things that they look for, and he said, you apply online, but it always makes sense, guys. He's kind of traditional, Fairway's traditional company. He says, stop by the store, shake the manager's hand. And so we went on the tour, and one of the youth was giving a tour, and it wasn't the young woman you see. Her name is Nikon. And 10 minutes after we'd kind of left and we're in the garden showing Reynolds around and some of his team, I look over my shoulder and I see Nikon standing over here in the corner. And I kind of snuck back over and said, Nikon, what are you doing? And she's like, I just applied for a job at Fairway. I want to shake his hand. And so she went into the container and shook the CEO, what is the 4th largest company in the state, 10,000 plus employees, and Reynolds is just as approachable as anybody. And they hired Nikon, so a pretty great success story. you might be thinking, man, this is awesome. How can I get in on some of this? We'll share some of that more at the end. But one way that you could participate is as a mentor. So now's a great time to be thinking about it. You don't have to commit today because it's the end of the school year next week. This is a school-based mentoring program. So once a week on Thursday mornings, I show up at Kate Mitchell and hang out with Javier for 30 minutes. And we play chess. He learned how to play chess. We play tiles or rummy cube, which is my favorite game. We play Uno, whatever it might be. Many of you have probably been mentors or are currently mentors. It's probably some of the best 30 minutes of my week where I'm not thinking about, the stress of running a nonprofit organization or how are we going to raise enough money or whatever it might be. I'm just simply believing in somebody more than they believe in themselves. So we will kick off the school year in the fall with it's our 25th anniversary of YSS mentoring. Thousands of kids have been engaged and helped, including Javier's mom. Javier's mom was a mentee when she was a kid, and now her son is in the program. So think about how you might, carve off 30 minutes a week. I know you're all busy. Some of you more than others. Some of you less than others. Gene? No, I'm kidding. Think about how you could invest in a young person. Boys and Girls Club, I'm sure, has opportunities as well. Lots of ways to give back, and I know many of you are doing a lot. That is Javier and I and George at his house every year. He hosts a mentoring party at Hobbits Hill, and the data says it. And the money we spend on prevention, thank you Asset and United Way, who help support and underwrite this program, as well as the city and others. The money we spend on prevention has an 8x return. It's not that with treatment. So the earlier we can get to kids and encourage them, the better. This is a slide that I had before, and Iowa still ranks 48th in the country as it relates to the availability of behavioral health beds. We're number 2 for binge drinking. Oh, we're number 1 maybe now. I can't, yeah. I mean, Wisconsin seemed like they were way ahead of us, so I hadn't heard that. But it's just part of our culture. You go to a party, you go to an event, you tailgate at Iowa State. It's part of our culture. Congratulations to Wendy on a great tenure, announcing her retirement last week. When she was interviewing, I was in my seat, and I went to the interviews, and I asked all of the finalist candidates what they would do to address, the alcohol abuse happening on campus. It's like 97% of every sexual assault on college campuses is associated with alcohol, right? I talked to some kids at the end of last year at Iowa State who said, we're number 2 for binge drinking, or number 1. We're number 1 for young adults with substance use disorder. We're the meth capital of the world, or were, right? And you mix that with the binge drinking. And I talked to a group of students who said it would be impossible to have a substance use disorder, be an alcoholic or drug addict when you're in college, because of college. And that sort of mindset is scary to me. And if we can't stop when we get out and we graduate, then maybe it's a problem. But the reality is 90% start before they're 18 years of age. So if you can delay onset of first use of drugs or alcohol after 18, not that you've made it free and clear, but that's a big deal. So we are intently working on one big issue. What's our answer? Deb had asked me to come and share about Ember Recovery Campus. I wanted to take a walk down history lane and just reflect a little bit on nearly 50 years of history. But this is our answer, Ember Recovery Campus. This represents the largest investment in children's behavioral health in our state's history. Lisa Heddens had Supervisor Heddens' hand in helping to push this forward. As the board knows, we've been thinking about doing something big for a while, had raised a little bit of money, but could not get the momentum that we needed a lead gift, and that came through the CICS Mental Health and Disability Services region, which Lisa is the current chair of, so could not be more grateful for the investment. And once we got the lead gift, other gifts followed. So 53 acres of prairie and timber, centrally located, Story County, Cambridge address, in what we're considering rural location, not remote. So it's 10 minutes to Ankeny, 10 minutes to Ames, 20 minutes to downtown Des Moines. And some of you were there for the ribbon cutting just a few weeks ago. Here's what it looks like. So I should do side by side, but it's like that was the vision. And look at that. That's actually what it looks like. It's so awesome to like see this thing come to life. We're going to get some professional photos, but this space represents hope and opportunity. 70 beds of residential addiction treatment for gender responsive and now young adults. So when I went to treatment, and up until just a few months ago, our addiction treatment stopped at 18. And sometimes, if you know of anybody that's had substance use disorder, it takes a little bit, maybe another dose or two of treatment to actually get sober. In my case, it was 1 dose, but I know a lot of other people that needed treatment again after a relapse. And so prior to Ember Recovery Campus, if you came at 16 and a half or 17, stayed sober for a year and then relapsed at 18, and you needed treatment, your roommate might be 60. And so now we've got this really best-in-class space on a best-in-class site alongside a best-in-class program built with intention. Julie Stevens, who works in the landscape architecture department at Iowa State, is an expert in trauma-informed design. And so she came alongside the organization. I mean, I know a little bit about trauma-informed care. I knew nothing about trauma-informed design. And it was things like, when you come into Ember, we have a meandering drive, intentionally. Because it's not like a straight line, how fast can I get to work? How fast can I drop this kid off? How fast can I get to my meeting? To slow you down, to be thoughtful about what's actually happening here. This is where kids are living and healing. The original design had one big building, because that seems efficient and like get from place to place. You don't have to walk outside when it's cold, all that stuff. And the reality is exposure to the outdoors, even if it's 30 seconds, has a physiological effect that supports brain chemistry and healing. The lights adjust throughout the day to match your circadian rhythm. The way that the windows are positioned, we've got doors in all the classrooms to expose kids outside. The theme was nature-based, trauma-informed, experiential, and we wanted it to be really home-like and therapeutic. And so it was built with intention. And this is a video. I don't know if it'll play or not. No, that's okay. We don't need to play it. This is a video that I took on the day that we moved out, just a few months ago. It was a cold day. We had built this thing, Country Landscapes, thanks for what we're calling a natural playscape. And as they were building it, I thought, wow, this is going to be really great, like in the spring when it's warmer. But kids aren't going to want to play on this in the winter. Sure enough, I was completely wrong. And the very first thing that they did is they saw that thing and they started climbing all over it. And, 8 boys. We've been working on this for 9 years, 8 years. Lots of times when we didn't think it was going to happen. And this was the first day. And I was just like taking it all in. And I had my camera out and I was taking a video of it. And you could hear kind of the joy and the laughter. And I'm walking out with my camera. And Eduardo sees me and he comes running up. And I put my camera down and I wish I would have had it going. Because this kid, 17 years old, had just come from Youth Recovery House, is now in Ember. He says, whoa, this place has such a great vibe. He says, I'm going to sleep good tonight. And I said, well, what do you mean? He's like, oh, I don't know, that old place, like, it was just kind of run down. But this place, it's just like, I'm out here in nature. I'm just like experiencing everything. It feels like home. It's so therapeutic. Like, it just feels like I can heal here. And I'm just thinking, are you kidding me? Like, all of our talking points, all of the things that we'd worked to build into this campus with intention, he hadn't been a part of any of the planning meetings. And he knew that this would be a place that he could heal. So it will be, not just for him, but tens of thousands to come after him. Here's Lisa. Paul, I told you, I had a picture of your mom right there, front and center alongside the governor, cutting the ribbon on Ember Recovery Campus. We had a beautiful day, and so many of you in this room, so many, supporters of YSS who believed in the mission and, helped us get it over the finish line. Back to my theme of one. Anybody recognize this guy? Kind of hard to see, upper left. Lou Scallon, you got it. Dr. Scallon, recently retired. You know what he's doing in his free time? He's a master gardener. And so he came to YSS, and a gift in partnership with the Community Foundation made a major gift to YSS to build a greenhouse, because plants are healing, and he wants kids to get their hands dirty. And so even before we build the greenhouse, which is part of phase 2, he's out there with his buddies and our youth building raised beds. So we've got raised beds planted. Even before the raised beds, he was in our classrooms teaching kids about propagating succulents. And so you've got a picture of Nick and I. Nick was the first graduate of Ember Recovery Campus, and they give them all a plant to talk about the growth and the symbolism at Ember. So we're just so excited. And think about, what is your one thing? This campus is built on land donated by Dr. J. Brown. Who knows Dr. Brown? Recently retired, I think. Is he retired fully-ish? Pretty close. He's got a woodworking shop. You know, the story, real quick, probably 4 years ago, he called about an end-of-year gift, and I'm like, oh, great, this is, thanks so much, Dr. Brown. And I said, we've got this vision for a nature-based treatment center, and I'd love to talk to you about it later. He's like, oh, no, tell me about it now. And we gave an award from the Iowa Medical Society, and as he was accepting the award, he said, as I was describing the space, he said to himself, shit, there goes my farm. So I got done telling him what we wanted to do, and he's like, well, Andrew, I've got this property outside of Cambridge. I don't know what I'm doing with it. I'm like, well, great. Like, let's talk in the spring. It was December 10th, 11th. And hung up the phone. 20 minutes later, he texts me back. He says, I've talked to my wife. I've talked to my kids. I'll meet you out there tomorrow. And he brought the title and the deed with him. And he said, Andrew, if you can close by the end of the year, he had a sold an appreciated asset. He said, if you can close before the end of the year, it's yours. And I said, aye, Dr. Brown. And we closed, and we vetted other properties, and it turned out it was the perfect space at the perfect time. And so grateful for Jay. Jay, in retirement, he's got a woodworking shop, and he told me the other day, Andrew, these kids will never be successful if they can't do math. And I'm like, okay, Dr. Brown. And he's like, and I can teach them how to do math in my woodworking shop, like reading plans. And I thought, well, of course you could and you will. And here's where he'll do it. One campus, a spark to a movement. We're not done yet. I really feel like, and Serena knows this, and Rosa knows this, and Angeline, folks that are in the United Way knows this. Like, momentum is probably one of the most important things to a campaign. And we don't want Ember Recovery Campus to simply be a building and a site. We want to start a movement. We're number 1 or 2 for binge drinking. We're number 1 for young adults with a substance use disorder. I've talked to multiple friends, kids of friends of kids, they've sent their kids away somewhere outside of Iowa to go to treatment. They had a great experience. They might have even done a halfway house in the community. There's lots of momentum and, a supportive, recovering community. And they come back to Iowa and they're like, this place sucks to be sober. And so no more. We are going to lean into the Ember Recovery Campus, the investment we made. A governor who's 25 years sober in July, the largest investment in children's behavioral health. And we're going to just make an awesome space. Come alongside Iowa State, who's developed a collegiate recovering community. It was one of the things that Wendy promised in her interview, and she got it done. And so let's just make Iowa, a wholesome, safe place, one of the greatest places in the country for young people to recover, and that is phase 2. We're going to have a maintenance shop to maintain mind, body, and spirit. It's going to be the Jay's woodworking shop and lifts for cars where you can wrench on cars and change the oil, do woodworking, get exposure to the trades. There's going to be a wellness space. I think indoor pickleball with big roll-up garage doors where you're bringing the outdoors indoors. And there's going to be curated meeting space. So a classroom, a teaching kitchen, a place where Rotary could host an event. Or if you want to teach kids at Ember something, it will be a place for you to connect. Sports fields. It'll be like, has anybody been to Smash Park? I haven't yet, but it'll be like Smash Park for sober kids. It's going to be awesome. You can see bottom right-hand corner is a tiny house. We're going to have 8 tiny houses. All pending approval of Story County Planning and Zoning and Board of Adjustments. So thanks for that. And so it's going to be awesome. It's just going to be a great space, and we're well on our way. So 50th anniversary, 4 years ago, we announced an audacious goal to create 1 million intentional and substantive connections in the areas of health, self-sufficiency, education, and safety. And guess what, guys? We've been counting them. And so as we come upon our 50th anniversary this time next year, and we celebrate, our gift back to the community is 1 million connections, and many millions before that, but it's part of our internal metric that we're measuring and goal that we're going after. And we're doing this one at a time, right? So whether it's a mentoring relationship, Hunter, bottom left, he's rocking it. He spoke at the ribbon cutting. He wants to get his CDL and own a trucking business someday. And then on the right side is Andrew and Carly after the condition of the state address a year and a half ago. The governor pointed them out, talked about Ember, and this was a letter that she texted me just last week from Andrew. And you can't read the details, but it says, "Dear Governor Reynolds, my name is Andrew Conrad Jr." And I can't read it either, but I'll tell you what the essence of it is. And you recognize me and my sister Carly at the condition of the state address a year and a half ago. I just wanted to let you know I'm graduating East High on time and sober. And so this is the sort of impact that we can have as a community. Very, very proud of the foundation that George created, the hope that all of you put in him, nearly 50 years ago, and our opportunity to continue to push this thing forward. So what's your number? We always say, if somebody asks, how can I help? I always say, champion, invite, and invest. So be a champion for our organization. There's some handouts on your table. If you know somebody that's got a behavioral health need, maybe they need a counselor, or they're going through a tough time and they need to see a therapist. That's what YSS does. Maybe they're experiencing a substance use disorder, a family just doesn't know where to turn, or their family is in crisis. The Crisis McKay Cabin at Ember takes kids for just a couple of days, up to 10 days, to stabilize a crisis situation. Become a mentor. That's going to be an opportunity. You can make a gift. You could think about your estate. Angeline's very good at this, having conversations with people. And, it's really, at the end of the day, one act to change a life. So grateful, everybody, for all that you've done to support our work. That's my cell phone. It will, send me a text, write it down. You've got my card. What you study? Horticulture? And sustainable. Well, did I tell you about this program that we've got called Rooftop Gardens, where we're growing basil and retrofitted shipping leafy greens, romaine? Interesting. Well, we should talk. So we are hiring, if you know people that want to do purpose-driven work, if you know a family that's in need. We are eternally grateful for this community for giving us the platform to, create hope and opportunity. So grateful for all of you for support. Thanks.
Well, thank you so much, Andrew. Very inspiring, wonderful to hear about all you have going on, and more to come, it sounds like. So I'll wrap it up quickly since we're at the 1 o'clock point. My kindness quote goes along well again with the theme. Be the reason someone smiles. Be the reason someone feels loved and believes in the goodness in people. So with that, please stand and join me in the 4-way test. Of the things we think, say, or do, is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? Will it be beneficial to all concerned? Have a great day, everyone. Oh, shoot.